Jason Statham dropped the barbell mid-rep and closed the distance on three loudmouthed bullies who had just shoved a teenage kid into the weight rack. Before the biggest one could even turn around, Statham's hand was already locked around his collar, dragging him backward across the rubber floor. What happened in the next 90 seconds would become that gym's legend, a story whispered about for decades. Jason Statham dropped his gym bag on the bench, and a fist came flying at the side of his head. He ducked, shoulder rolling left, and the knuckle grazed the top of his ear, close enough to leave it ringing. The guy who threw it was big. 6'3", maybe 240, veins crawling up his neck, jaw clenched so hard you could see every tendon. He had two friends behind him and a grin that said he'd been waiting for this moment all morning. What happened in the next 45 minutes would become Gold's Gym Venice legend, a story whispered about for decades. Trainers would tell it to new members, fighters would argue about the details over beers, and nobody who was in that weight room on that Tuesday in August would ever forget what Jason Statham did to three men who thought they could bully their way through anyone. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up about 90 seconds. Statham had walked in alone. No entourage, no trainer, no assistant carrying a protein shake. Just a guy in a gray shirt and black shorts who wanted to lift heavy things and sweat. He'd been filming a movie nearby, some action thing where he spent 14 hours a day pretending to fight. Now he wanted to actually move. No choreography, no camera angles, just iron. He picked a squat rack in the back corner, loaded 2 plates on each side, started warming up, quiet, methodical, the kind of focus that makes you invisible if you want to be. Believe me, Statham wanted to be invisible that morning. But here's the problem with Gold's Gym Venice. It's not a regular gym. It's a proving ground. It's the place where bodybuilders come to be seen, where Instagram influencers film themselves curling 20-pound dumbbells, and where ego walks through the door before the person does. And on this particular Tuesday, 3 guys had turned the free weight section into their personal kingdom. Their leader was a guy named Travis. I won't use his last name because what happened to him was embarrassing enough. Travis was a personal trainer who competed in regional strongman events. Decent numbers, big frame. But what made Travis dangerous wasn't his strength. It was his mouth. He talked constantly, loud, cruel. He'd find whoever looked weakest in the gym and tear them apart verbally until they left. His 2 buddies, Kyle and a guy everyone just called Brick, played backup. Kyle would laugh at everything Travis said. Brick would stand close, arms crossed, making sure whoever Travis targeted felt surrounded. That morning they'd already run off a teenager who was doing bench press with just the bar. Travis had walked up, leaned over the kid's face mid-rep and said, "You should try Planet Fitness, little man. They got pizza there. Might put some weight on you." Kyle howled. Brick stepped closer. The kid racked the bar, grabbed his stuff, and left with his face burning red. Now here's what nobody tells you about bullies in gyms. They pick targets carefully. They look for people who won't fight back. They avoid anyone who might embarrass them. That's the algorithm. Weak targets. Maximum humiliation. Zero risk. So when Travis saw Statham in the back corner, he didn't see a movie star. Statham wasn't wearing a brand. He didn't have tattoos advertising toughness. He was just a lean, mid-height guy squatting 225. Travis saw what he wanted to see. A mark. Travis grabbed a 45-pound plate from the rack Statham was using. Didn't ask, didn't nod. Just reached past him and took it while Statham was mid-squat. Statham finished his rep, racked the bar, and turned. "I was using that." Travis looked down at him. He had 4 inches and probably 60 pounds on Statham. "You can have it back when I'm done." He said it the way a landlord talks to a tenant who's late on rent. Dismissive, final. Statham held his gaze for 3 full seconds. Then he reached to the other side of the rack, grabbed a different plate, and loaded it without a word. He went back to squatting. Travis looked at Kyle and Brick, grinned. Get this, that grin was the beginning of the end. Because Travis didn't read that silence as restraint. He read it as submission, and that misread was about to cost him everything. 2 minutes later, Statham moved to the pull-up bar. He started doing weighted pull-ups with a chain around his waist, 45 pounds hanging between his legs. Clean form. Full extension at the bottom, chin well over the bar at the top. 12 reps, 15, 20. He wasn't counting out loud, but everyone within 20 feet stopped what they were doing. Travis noticed the attention shifting. He was doing cable crossovers nearby, and he saw heads turning toward the pull-up bar, toward Statham, away from him. And if you understand anything about a guy like Travis, you understand that attention is oxygen. Take it away, and he suffocates. Travis dropped the cables, walked over, and stood directly in front of Statham, close enough that when Statham came down from a rep, their faces were 12 inches apart. "Hey, movie star." Statham hung there, arms extended, weight dangling. He looked at Travis the way you'd look at something stuck to the bottom of your shoe. "I know who you are," Travis continued. "You're that action guy, the one who pretends to fight in movies." He turned to Kyle. "Isn't that cute? A pretend tough guy in a real gym." Statham pulled himself up, smooth and controlled, held at the top for a beat, then lowered down. He did it so casually it was almost insulting. Travis was trying to get a reaction and Statham was doing reps through his words. "I swear this happened." Travis actually reached out and grabbed the chain hanging from Statham's waist, grabbed it and held it, trying to stop him mid-rep. Statham was halfway up when the chain went taut. His body barely stuttered. He completed the pull-up with Travis actively pulling down on the chain. Then he dropped to the ground, unhooked the chain, and set it on the floor. He stepped toward Travis. Not aggressive, not retreating, just closing distance. The temperature in that corner of the gym dropped 10 degrees. "You've got my attention," Statham said. "What do you want to do with it?" Travis puffed up, chest out, shoulders back, that classic posturing that big guys do when they want to look bigger. "I want you to stop acting like you belong here. This isn't a movie set. Nobody's going to yell cut when it gets real." Statham tilted his head slightly. His hands stayed at his sides, his feet shifted, and if you knew what to look for, you'd have seen him blade his stance. Left foot forward, right foot back, weight centered. It wasn't a fighting pose. It was the pose before the fighting pose. A coiled spring that looked like standing still. "Walk away," Statham said. Flat. Not a request, not a threat, a statement of the last available option. And this is the moment. This is where the story splits between what could have happened and what did happen. Because Travis had a door. Statham held it open for him. All Travis had to do was take 3 steps backward, laugh it off, and go back to his cables. Nobody would have thought less of him. Nobody would have cared. But Travis had an audience. Kyle was behind his right shoulder. Brick was behind his left. 3 other guys were watching from the dumbbell rack. A woman on the leg press had her phone out. And Travis had spent years building a reputation in this gym as the alpha, the guy who never backed down, the king of the weight room. So Travis shoved him, both hands to the chest. Now let me tell you something about shoving Jason Statham. This is a man who is a competitive diver for Great Britain. 12 years on the national team. Do you understand the body control that requires, the spatial awareness? You throw him off balance and his nervous system has been trained since childhood to find center again in a fraction of a second. That shove moved him back maybe 4 inches. He absorbed it the way a concrete wall absorbs a tennis ball. Here's where it gets wild. Statham didn't shove back. He didn't throw a punch. He didn't even raise his hands. What he did was worse. He took 1 step forward, closing the distance Travis had just created, and stood exactly where he'd been standing before the shove. Closer, actually. He reclaimed the space and then some. Travis's face changed. Something behind his eyes flickered. Because the shove was supposed to be the trump card. In Travis's world, physicality was the final argument. You shove a guy, he either shoves back and you escalate, or he backs off and you win. Those were the only 2 outcomes Travis had ever experienced. Statham invented a third option. He simply denied the shove had ever mattered. "That all you got?" Travis said, but his voice had shifted, half a pitch higher. The confidence was synthetic now, held together by the presence of his friends. Statham said nothing. He just stood there. And let me tell you, silence from a dangerous man is the loudest thing in any room. Everyone in that gym felt it. Conversation stopped. Music kept playing from the overhead speakers, some hip-hop track with heavy bass, but it felt distant, irrelevant. Kyle made a mistake. He stepped forward and put his hand on Statham's shoulder from behind. "Hey bro, maybe you should just go to another gym." Statham moved so fast that 3 different people later told 3 different versions of what happened. Here's what actually went down. He caught Kyle's wrist with his right hand, turned his hip, and redirected Kyle's own momentum past him. Kyle stumbled forward, tripped over the chain that was still on the floor, and went down on one knee. Statham released the wrist immediately. Didn't twist it, didn't lock it, didn't follow up. Just redirected and let go. It was so clean it almost looked accidental. But everyone knew it wasn't. Kyle scrambled back to his feet, face flushed, and stepped behind Travis again. His wrist was already turning red where Statham's fingers had been. Brick started to move. He unfolded his arms, made fists, took a half step. Statham's eyes went to Brick, just his eyes. His body stayed facing Travis, and Brick, who outweighed Statham by a solid 80 pounds, stopped. I'm telling you the truth. He stopped mid-step. Whatever he saw in Statham's eyes put a wall between his brain and his legs. Now the gym was watching, not pretending to work out while stealing glances, full-on watching. A trainer near the front desk had his hand on the phone, ready to call someone. 2 guys by the squat racks had moved closer. The woman on the leg press was definitely recording. Travis was trapped. He couldn't back down. He couldn't escalate effectively. His 2 backup guys had been neutralized, one physically and one psychologically, in about 4 seconds. He was standing in front of a man he outweighed significantly, and he was the one who looked scared. You know what's funny? This is the part of the story most people get wrong when they retell it. They say Statham beat them up. They say he knocked Travis out cold. They say he put all 3 in the hospital. None of that happened. What actually happened was more devastating than any punch. Travis threw a right hand. A big, looping, telegraphed right hand that started somewhere near his hip and took a scenic route towards Statham's jaw. And look, Travis was strong. If that fist had connected, it would have done damage. Bone and muscle don't care about your movie credits. But it didn't connect. Statham shifted his head maybe 3 inches to the right. The fist went past his ear. While Travis was still extended, still off balance from throwing everything he had into one shot, Statham stepped to the outside of Travis's lead foot, hooked his right hand behind Travis's neck, and used Travis's own forward momentum to guide him downward and to the left. Travis hit the rubber floor face first, hard enough to bounce, hard enough that the sound made people wince. And Statham hadn't thrown a single punch. He'd used Travis's weight, Travis's force, Travis's aggression against him. Physics did the work. Statham just directed traffic. Let me paint this picture clearly. Travis is on the ground. His nose is bleeding from the impact with the floor. His hands are flat on the rubber, trying to push himself up. Statham is standing over him, breathing normally, not winded, not flushed, looking down at Travis with an expression that was somewhere between bored and disappointed. Travis got up. Give him credit for that. Blood on his lip, fury in his eyes, he got up, and he charged. Dropped his shoulder, went for a tackle, trying to use his size advantage the only way he had left. No kidding, Statham sprawled on the takedown attempt. If you've never seen a sprawl, it's a wrestling defense, where you shoot your hips back and drive your weight down on the person trying to take you down. Statham's sprawl was textbook. His hands pushed down on the back of Travis's head and neck, driving Travis's face toward the floor again while Statham's legs kicked back out of reach. Travis ate rubber for the second time. This time he stayed down a beat longer. His breathing was ragged. His shirt was soaked through. He'd been fighting for maybe 20 seconds and he was gassed because he'd been fighting against himself. Every bit of energy he'd thrown, Statham had recycled back into him. Statham stepped back. 2 paces. He gave Travis room. And this is the part that people in that gym still talk about. Because Statham could have pressed. He could have taken Travis's back, locked in a choke, put him to sleep. He had the skill, had the position, had every right in the world to finish it. Travis had started it. Travis had thrown the first shove. Travis had thrown the first punch. But Statham just stood there, gave him room to breathe, room to think, room to make the right decision. Here's what you have to understand about Statham's background. He didn't just train martial arts for movies. He trained kickboxing under real fighters. He trained Brazilian jiu-jitsu under legitimate black belts. He'd been in Wing Chun, in judo, in systems that teach you how to control a human body. The movies are an exaggeration of something real, and the real thing is more than enough to handle a gym bully who's used to pushing around teenagers. Travis got up again, slower this time. Blood was dripping off his chin onto his tank top. His boys were useless. Kyle had backed up near the dumbbell rack, nursing his wrist. Brick hadn't moved since Statham's look had frozen him. And then something happened that nobody expected. Statham extended his hand, palm open, offering to help Travis straighten up. Trust me on this." Every single person in that gym held their breath. Travis looked at the hand, looked at Statham's face, looked at his own boys. And you could see it, the exact moment the fight left him. His shoulders dropped 2 inches, his fists uncurled. The mask of aggression cracked, and underneath it was just a tired, embarrassed man with blood on his face. Travis didn't take the hand. But he didn't swing again either. He stood up on his own, wiped his face with his shirt, and took a step back. "We done?" Statham asked. Travis nodded, one short nod. His mouth opened like he wanted to say something, but nothing came out. He turned to walk away. But Statham wasn't done. Not with Travis, with something bigger. "Hold on," Statham said. His voice wasn't hard anymore. It was level, almost conversational. He looked past Travis at the door to the gym. "That kid you ran out of here earlier, the one on the bench press." Travis's jaw tightened. He knew exactly who Statham was talking about. "Everyone starts somewhere," Statham said. "I walked into my first gym at 14 and I couldn't bench the bar. Somebody helped me. Nobody laughed at me. That's why I kept coming back." He let that sit for a second. Then he looked at Kyle and Brick. "You 3 run this gym like it's a prison yard, making people afraid to work out, making new people feel like they don't belong." He paused, stepped closer to Travis, not threatening, just close enough that the words had weight. "You know how pathetic that is? You're strong enough to help every person in this room get better. Instead, you tear them down because it makes you feel tall." "Cross my heart." Travis's eyes went glassy, not from the hits, from the words. Because somewhere underneath all that bravado and muscle, Travis knew. He knew what he'd become. He knew that running off a skinny kid trying to learn the bench press wasn't strength. It was the opposite of strength. It was weakness wearing a costume. Kyle and Brick didn't move, didn't speak. They stood there absorbing every word the same way they used to stand behind Travis absorbing his cruelty. Passive, followers. Without Travis's engine running, they were just 2 big dudes with nothing to do. Statham turned back to the squat rack. He reloaded his bar, added another plate on each side. 3 plates now, 315. He got under it, unracked it, and squatted it for 5 clean reps, deep, controlled, as if nothing had happened. The gym slowly started moving again. Weights clanked, machines hummed, conversations restarted, but they were quieter than before. Everyone was processing. A few people had witnessed a YouTube fantasy play out in real life, and the reality of it was somehow both less dramatic and more powerful than the fiction. Travis walked to the locker room. Kyle followed. Brick stood there for another 30 seconds, watching Statham squat. Then he turned and left, too. Nobody saw them for the rest of the morning. Now here's where the story could end. But it doesn't. Because what happened next is the part that separates this from just another gym fight story and turns it into something worth remembering. About 40 minutes later, Statham was finishing up. He'd done his squats, his pull-ups, moved through some kettlebell work, and was now stretching on a mat near the back. He was cooling down, rolling out his shoulders, when the gym door opened. The kid walked back in. The teenager Travis had humiliated earlier. He was wearing the same clothes, same nervous energy. He stood just inside the door, scanning the room, clearly checking to see if Travis was still there. Statham noticed him, stopped stretching, watched the kid look around, debating whether to stay or bolt. "Let me tell you what happened." Statham got up, grabbed a towel, and walked over to the kid. Not fast, not intimidating, just a calm walk across the gym floor. "Hey!" The kid looked up, recognized him. His eyes went wide. "You were in here earlier, right? On the bench?" The kid nodded. He looked like he was ready to apologize for existing. "Come on, I'll show you some things." For real. Jason Statham spent the next 20 minutes teaching this kid how to bench press. Proper setup, shoulder blade retraction, foot position, grip width, breathing. He started him with just the bar, spotted every rep, gave calm corrections, and told him things trainers charge $200 an hour to explain. The kid's name was Marcus. He was 16. He'd saved up for a gym membership from a summer job washing cars. He wanted to get stronger because he was tired of being the smallest kid in his class. He'd walked into Gold's Gym Venice because he'd seen pictures of it online and thought it was the most serious gym in the world. He wanted to be serious, and some jerk with a big chest and a small soul had nearly taken that from him on his first day. Statham didn't give Marcus a speech about self-worth. He didn't lecture him about bullies. He didn't share motivational quotes. He just showed him how to lift. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for someone is treat them like they belong. When they finished, Statham patted Marcus on the shoulder. Same time next Tuesday? Marcus nearly fell over. Are you serious? I'm here for 3 more weeks. We'll get your bench to a plate by then. Marcus's face did something that I can't describe without making this sound cheesy, so I'll just say the kid looked like someone had handed him a winning lottery ticket. He nodded so hard his whole body moved. Statham grabbed his gym bag, threw his towel in the bin, and headed for the door. The trainer at the front desk, the one who'd had his hand on the phone earlier, stopped him. Hey, I should have stepped in earlier with those guys. That's my job and I didn't do it. Statham looked at him. Then do it next time. He walked out into the Venice sunlight and disappeared, now. You want to know what happened after? Hold on to something. Travis came back to the gym the next day, but he came back different. Quieter. He trained alone. Kyle and Brick weren't with him. And here's the detail that makes this whole thing feel like it was scripted by someone with a taste for irony. Travis walked past the bench press area, saw Marcus struggling with 65 pounds, and stopped. He didn't say anything cruel. He didn't say anything at all, actually. He just stood behind the bench, hands near the bar, spotting without being asked. When Marcus finished his set, Travis gave him a single nod and walked away. I don't know if Travis became a good person after that day. I don't know if he went home, looked in the mirror, and decided to change. People don't transform overnight because they got their face bounced off a gym floor. But I know this. He never ran anyone out of that gym again. The staff confirmed it. The regulars confirmed it. Whatever Statham broke inside Travis's ego that morning, it stayed broken. And maybe that was the best thing that could have happened to it. If this story hit you somewhere, if it reminded you that real toughness is quiet and real weakness is loud, then subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell. We tell stories about people who prove that strength isn't about size, it's about choices. Now let me finish this the way it deserves to be finished. Marcus kept showing up, every Tuesday. And true to his word, Statham was there for 3 more weeks. They trained together 4 times total. Statham added 5 pounds to the bar each session. By the 4th Tuesday, Marcus benched 135, a full plate on each side. He locked it out, racked it, and sat up with his chest heaving and his eyes burning. Statham just looked at him and said 7 words. Now do it again. Nobody can take that. He picked up his bag and left. That was their last session. The movie wrapped. Statham moved on to the next city, the next project, the next set of choreographed fights that only worked because somewhere underneath the acting was a man who understood real violence and chose restraint anyway. Marcus kept training at Gold's Gym Venice. He got bigger, stronger. He started helping other new members, showed them the same bench setup Statham had taught him. Shoulder blades pinched, feet flat, grip just outside the shoulders. He became the guy who made people feel welcome on their first day. You know what Marcus has hanging in his apartment now? A single photo. It's blurry, taken by someone across the gym on a phone camera with a cracked screen. It shows Statham spotting Marcus on the bench press, leaning over the bar, hands ready, watching the kids form. You can barely tell it's Statham, but Marcus knows. And everyone who visits his place and asks about the photo gets the full story. Here's what I want you to take from this. Every gym has a Travis. Every school has one. Every office, every neighborhood, every comments section on the internet. People who make themselves feel powerful by making others feel small. They're everywhere, and they've been everywhere since the beginning of time. But every now and then, someone walks through the door who doesn't play by their rules. Someone who can't be intimidated. Someone who has so much real ability that fake toughness bounces off them. And when that person also has enough character to extend a hand instead of throwing a finishing blow, to teach a scared kid instead of walking away, to say everyone starts somewhere instead of you deserved it, that's when something legendary happens. Statham didn't post about this, didn't mention it in interviews, didn't reference it in any behind-the-scenes footage. The only reason we know about it is because people talk. The trainer told a friend. Marcus told his parents. The woman with the phone on the leg press posted a clip that got taken down, but not before a few hundred people saw it. Details traveled from mouth to mouth to mouth, the way all real legends do. And that's what this was. Not a movie scene, not a scripted moment with stunt coordinators and crash mats and a director yelling cut. Just a Tuesday morning, a quiet man, a loud bully, and a kid who almost lost his shot at something important. The bully ended up on the floor, the kid ended up on the bench, and the quiet man, he walked out into the sunlight and never said a word about any of it. That's Jason Statham. Not the character on screen doing flying kicks through windshields. The real one. The one who showed up, shut up, worked hard, defended someone who couldn't defend themselves, and left without taking a bow. Gold's Gym Venice has seen a lot of legends walk through its doors. Arnold trained there, Lou Ferrigno trained there, Franco Columbu trained there. Champions, icons, people whose names are carved into the history of the sport. But ask the staff who was there that Tuesday morning which story they tell the most. And it's not about any of them. It's about the day 3 bullies picked the wrong guy in the back corner. The day a movie star turned out to be more dangerous in real life than he ever was on screen. And the day a 16-year-old kid named Marcus learned that a plate on each side was only the beginning. Some stories are made for cameras. Some stories are made for stadiums. But the best ones, the ones that stick in your ribs and stay there, those are made on a Tuesday morning when nobody's watching and the only audience is a room full of people who can't believe what they just saw. This was that kind of story. And now you've heard it. Pass it on.